Hey everyone, back with me Hafiz. I'm an English tutor from HZad Education, and today I'm going to focus on CELPIP speaking. Now, for those of you who are new to this video, we cover a lot of different English uh, proficiency tests, CELPIP and IELTS mainly. So for today, I would like to spend a little bit of time to just go through comprehensively on what the examiners are looking for when it comes to your speaking CELPIP. Now, if you are not aware of the tests for CELPIP, that test is something that you do need to take in order to get permanent residency Canada or citizenship, right? And for the speaking section, there are 8 tasks, each one having their unique prompts. So a lot of them are going to be quite casual, right? For example, in task one, it will be about giving advice. So I will go through and I will make videos on each of these of those different tasks. But for today, I would like to give you a general overview on what examiners are looking for in order for you to have a really good understanding of what you need to be able to do when you are answering those speaking questions. Right. So before we continue into the substance, the overall preparation is like pretty much the same. You do have 90 seconds to speak and 30 seconds to prepare. Now that is non-negotiable, right? CELPIP is fully online. So once the time starts ticking, then you have no way of pausing it nor going back in order to get more time or even asking for a clarification of the question compared to, let's say, you're doing IELTS speaking. Sometimes you can go, oh, I'm sorry, could you clarify the question? I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? In CELPIP, no chance of that happening, right? Because it's fully online. No, so the time itself, time management itself, that's something that you do have to get accustomed to, right, at some point. But the more important thing is understanding what you need to be capable of. So let's move straight into the different the different categories in the grading rubric. Now, I have gone through grading rubrics in my past videos, right? But I will repeat them here so that anyone who's new to this channel can still catch on. So in terms of the grading rubric, it's more or less the same, whether you're taking CELPIP or IELTS, because both are English proficiency tests. So they will kind of look for the same thing. So first is the coherence. It's slightly in different order to IELTS, but again, there is coherence in IELTS. The coherence. What is coherence about? Coherence basically how smooth your answer is. So when you are answering question, right, you can either answer it in broken sentences or with lots of pauses, with lots of stutters, or you can, you know, speak as if you were speaking to a very close friend, or when you're presenting in front of professors or something like that. So coherence will measure that capability of yours on how smooth your answer is, how confident do you sound, how did it flow from one sentence to another, right, from beginning to end. Did you use kind of like a smooth structure, and did everything connects together, right, etc. So that is basically coherence. Lexical range and accuracy, this is something you will hear quite often in my videos. That's basically your vocabulary. Now there are 2 categories, range and accuracy. This part is crucial to understand because for CELPIP as well, they're not looking for applicants that can, or participants, sorry, that can use bombastic vocabulary, grandiose vocabulary. No, 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 no. They are just looking for participants who can literally showcase a wide range variety of vocabulary and use them appropriately. However profound your words are, if you use them appropriately, like they go well in the context or expressions that you are trying to get across, that is lexical accuracy. Lexical range is simply you avoiding repetition, making sure that you're not reliant on one or two specific words or expressions. You always have different kinds of words ready in order to express certain feelings, certain arguments, certain points, etc. So you do need a good amount. You don't need a plethora of vocabulary, right? That counts as bombastic probably, but you don't need a plethora of it. You just need enough to make sure you don't repeat yourself and that the words you're using are not too basic. What does basic mean? Like if you want to say you're a good person, what does that mean? Are you kind? Are you generous? Are you polite? Right? There are so many words in the English language that will make your point much clearer, much more concise. Those are the kinds of words you need. So instead of you're a good person, you have to go with you're polite, you're kind, you're generous, etc. Okay? Listenability and comprehensibility. Now, point one talks about coherence. How coherent is your answer, right? With listenability, that's basically how easy it is for you to understand, right? How easy it is for you to understand. So, how easy it is for you, sorry, to be understood. You're not the one examining. How easy it is for you to be understood. So how easy to follow is your answer, basically. A lot of the times you might have, like well structured answer or good range and resources, but the way you deliver it, the way you present it, it just makes it quite difficult to follow. So this does count into your grammar as well, right? Like your grammatical range and your grammatical accuracy. Because if your grammar are all spot on and you do show a good range, then it's like when you're reading a book, it just flows. It's just like you don't want to stop because you it's nice to read and everything sticks inside your head, right? You can fully grasp the definition, the essence of the sentences, the different vocabulary, etc. So that's listenability and comprehensibility. And there's also the factor of intonation that goes in this category as well. So intonation, of course, is how you sound, right? If you are being asked a question about something that upsets you, you might need to sound a little bit upset. If you are being asked about a question that talks about your happiness, your happy moments, you might need to sound elated. You cannot sound depressed, right? And one thing that I will never recommend, and in fact, I push my students to go, away from this, is that avoid monotonous tone, right? How does a monotonous tone sound like? All right, if you get a question like, oh, what do you prefer for lunch? I prefer basically anything, so as long as it's salty and there's also some sweetness in the food. But basically, if not, I'm okay as well with anything else. Like no expressions, no interest in the question as well. You might not get questions that doesn't interest you too much. It's still a must. Like you have to show interest, you have to be casual, you have to be slightly passionate, right? That's listenability and comprehensibility. Lastly is task fulfillment, right? So what does task fulfillment mean? Well, basically answer the question, do not stray away from it. If you get asked a question about health, focus on health. If you get asked a question on advice, focus on giving advice. Don't go around and start to deep into the personal life of that question of that person or anything else that's not mentioned in the question, basically, right? So answer the question. And I forgot to write about the lexical range and accuracy. So use a wide range of vocab correctly. That's just another word to put it. Okay, and then I do have one more thing. But those are the four categories that you need to be always mindful of when you're answering self-pip speaking question. Right? You have to make sure that you follow those because if you fulfill all those criteria, there is no doubt for the speaking section you will get a 10 at least, no lower, right? If you talk coherently, if you show wide variety of vocabulary and accurately use them, and if you speak in a way that feels casual, that feels quite energetic or appropriate, in accordance to the question, and you focus on the question, you don't stray away, you don't pile too many things into one answer, right? And you take your time to explain your reasoning, etc. You will get at least a 10. All right, and I will make another video that kind of show you the examples for each task in the future, hopefully, right? But for this task, you do need to understand what you need to prepare for. Now, there is also one more thing. It's not part of the rubric, but I want you to make sure that you're also fully aware of this. And number one, sorry, not number one, actually, it's just knowledge and ability to adapt to the unexpected. So what does that mean to the unexpected? Basically, the questions that you're getting that you might get in the CELPIP exam is not one that you might be very familiar with. So you might be asked for an advice on English lessons, like a person asks you, like, "Hey, how what's the best way to learn English?" And you yourself is are learning English, and you thought to yourself, I mean, I don't even know what's the best way to learn. How am I supposed to give advice? So in those kind of cases, you have to just pretend, right? You have to be knowledgeable in how people should be learning. And I do provide some of those videos as well on ways that you should be learning when it comes to speaking, writing, reading, and listening. So exposure to different kinds of knowledge, and you need to know that it's not about knowing complicated or advanced or academic knowledge. It's just casual knowledge. Like you need to know, like, okay, if someone is sick, what should they do? If someone is very busy, but they want time for another activity, what is the best way to do it? Of course, you also need to be aware of the kind of activity that might need different approaches. Or you might get a question about career, right? You might be like, well, I'm only already starting a career, but you can always find out, read, check, different articles on, hey, if you need an advancement in your career, this is what you should do, right? And that's something that you can use to answer your question if you get any of those kinds, right? So that is something that you absolutely need for CELPIP speaking. And in addition to that, the ability to adapt to the unexpected. So you, when you expose yourself to enough knowledge, you can find a pattern, right, in the way that knowledge works, right? And granted, it's not going to be 100%, right? But at the very least, you can kind of practice your thought process, right? How do you come up with the creativity? Like, train your mind to come up with ideas on unexpected questions. That's something that you need to prepare before the test, mind you. So you cannot rely on your own instinct, right? And what one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen my students um, do is like they rely on their honesty, like they rely on their own experience, and that's going to be a huge error on your part, because a lot of the times what happens when you try to take a personal experience, granted, if you have experienced them, that's fine, right? But even if you have experienced them, a lot of the times what will happen is that what is in your mind does not convey well through your mouth. So it's like inside your mind, that sounds very cohesive. It all connects together. But then once you try to speak, it's over in 10 seconds. It's over in 10 seconds, or you run out of ideas very quickly, or even worse, you actually struggle to elaborate on what you're trying to say because you have never explained that story to someone else, or you have never explained the story in English, right? Probably the latter, right? But regardless, it's very risky, right? It's very risky to rely on your honesty. It's much better to practice a thought process where you train your creativity to come up with ideas on the spot, so you don't have to rely on your own memory. And do remember that your memory can blank out at any moment during the test, especially if it's an online one, because you have to focus on the screen. You're thinking a lot about a lot of things, and you might have distractions, etc. So you need the help of your creativity to stay active, right? Because your memory can blank out at any time. So that is the last point that I want to make clear, right? So for self-pip speaking, right, this is basically all you need to know prior first, and then after that you can start practicing with the individual prompts or the individual questions, right? You should not jump immediately to the question before you actually understand what you need to do in order to answer those questions, right? So remember the rubrics, remember what the examiners are looking for, and then remember that you need knowledge and the ability to adapt. All right, so in the next video, hopefully I'll talk a little bit, I'll try to cover some example question for task 1 2 through to task 8. Maybe it's going to be one video per task so that you guys can see the thought process and the creativity behind it as well. Okay. All right. That's my time, guys. Hopefully that helps. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.